Have you not recorded any of these? Are some mental person.
I'm just some mental person. I don't have a YouTube channel. What are you talking about? I just got you out here to play with the camera.
None of it's recorded.
None of it's recorded. Hey, so that's what that
we have to sit like really close, like television close.
Yeah, like that.
You would never sit this close, but on the camera
it looks normal. Exactly.
We actually look mental.
We do look mental.
Sat here in Costa.
In Costa.
Other coffee.
Talking about cameras. Hi, my name's Matt Widgery from mattwidgery.com. Today is a very special episode. Those of you that have been following the channel will know that I have been getting some shouts and abuse from people for doing that video about the X Pro 2 a couple of months ago, because I was doing it based on the spec sheet. At the time you couldn't get any in the UK anyway, but of course people were saying, well, you shouldn't really try any of this stuff until or say anything about this stuff until you've actually had a go on one for yourself. But all that's going to be remedied today, so all of you internet bellowers, this one is especially for you. I am here with my good buddy Phil, who is he's a videographer and he's a photographer of some note. He's very, very good at what he does, and he's been kind enough to come and lend me the X Pro 2. So we're going to have a little wander around Cambridge and see what we can take pictures of. So Phil, you've had this for what, like a couple of months now, or something like that?
Yeah, I did. I pre-ordered it, so whenever it came out. But as I was saying to you just now, it kind of sat in the box because I didn't have any projects to use it on. So I've done 3 proper full day shoots.
Yeah, fantastic.
And try to avoid the sitting around my house photographing coffee cups and that
and the box that the camera came in, which is
that usual nonsense. So I've gone out and done some proper shoots, mainly portraiture and a bit of sort of urbex portraiture stuff with a couple of Fuji X photographers, actually.
Yeah, nice one.
So yeah, I'm not an expert with it quite yet, but I've given it a thorough kind of working out, I'd say. Yeah.
Great stuff. So let's go and have a look at this camera and see what it's all about. The next shot you will see will be me poking it at some stuff in the market square and seeing what it's all about. So one of the things that you can immediately see with the X Pro 2 compared to the X Pro 1 is how much faster and more responsive it is at locking on focus. It really has made a big difference. The X-T1, I don't know if it's faster than the X-T1. It feels maybe like it could be, but I don't know if it's just because it feels so much faster than the X Pro 1, it should also be faster than the X-T1. But it is definitely making a difference. It's much more responsive, and for street photography, it's now the camera, I think, that the X Pro 1 always should have been in the first place. I often find when I'm shooting street with the X Pro 1 that I'm not using the autofocus system at all. I'm simply using zone focusing or something similar, so I'm not worried about the speed of the autofocus. But with this, even though I'm currently using the 35-1.4, which is one of the original generation of lenses, and arguably not the fastest to focus, I'm having no problem locking on to people moving around in this changing light. So, Phil, we were talking a little bit about off camera, and I'm trying to get us both in screen as well. I'm cameraman as well as everything else today. We were talking a little bit off camera.
Right.
We'll try that again. We were talking a little bit about off camera about you having how many X Pro 1s before you?
Well, I have owned 3.
Wow, that's probably enough. Is that hope over experience? Why did you have so many?
They were eBay purchases, and I think I was just finding the best one.
Right.
And wanted one and a backup body.
Yeah.
Because initially, that was when I very first kind of started to think, Fuji is the way to go. And liked the look of it, thought I must buy one to try it, see if it's any good. So bought one, thought I better buy a backup, and ended up bidding for 2, and 2 came in, so I just selected the best one and binned the other one.
Shot the other one, yeah.
So yeah, I did. At some point I did have 3, yes.
Right.
But to be fair, I was saying, I never really used them professionally. It was more as a sort of hobby thing, and I just like the look of it. and it was the speed for me at the time wasn't that bad really, because it was
because you weren't relying on it as a professional camera.
No,
so
there was no sort of I was doing video at the time, and that was for a living, and photography is much more of just a fun sort of hobby.
Yeah.
So having it slowing down, I'm not the sort of person that would shoot a huge burst, and do lots and lots of images and then select the best one. I'd probably just wait and take one photo.
Just take one image and then move on. And actually, I think a lot of people, the thing that they really liked about the X Pro 1 when it came out was that it did slow you down. It was almost like shooting back with an old film camera, where you'd take one shot, then you'd manually wind on the film winder, and then you'd do the next one. And that sort of that whole philosophy is something that really appealed to people.
That was my background. I was a film shooter,
right.
And then kind of left photography pretty much when it became digital, or was just doing post-production. I sat indoors in front of a computer doing Photoshop on Photoshop 3 pre-layers, and I thought I don't want to do that, so then moved into filming, but that was motion. So I kind of my entire background was I would work as an assistant, and we'd shoot 5:4. Our ratio was one shot an hour, and that was a commercial.
Yeah,
and we were going like the clappers.
Right.
So for me to have a digital camera that I didn't have to then send a film off, I found that the X Pro 1 was plenty fast.
Perfect for that.
Plenty fast enough
exactly.
for a hobbyist.
And as a walk-around camera, and this is the thing, like everybody's sort of focused on the aspects of the X Pro 2 being a lot faster than the X Pro 1, and it is. But that might not necessarily mean that you need to get it because of those reasons. There'll be a lot of people that will be very happy with the X Pro 1 because it does slow you down, and because it does offer still very good image quality and all the rest of it. And the nice thing now is that you can pick them up on eBay for pretty much nothing. I was even considering selling my X Pro 1 at one point to fund another X-T1, but I thought, there's no point. I'll just buy because I'll get nothing for it. Like, it's worth probably less than 200 quid now. So I might as well just get the X-T1 and keep it. And that's what I've done. And I love it. It's still a very good camera. There are huge improvements with the X Pro 2. There's no doubt about that. And if you are shooting professionally with it, or if you're shooting the types of things where speed is important, then definitely go for that. And Phil, you're talking about printing out big. That's another reason why you might want to go for the higher resolution and stuff like that.
I don't want to sort of stand here and say, just save your money and go and buy an X Pro 1, because the speed, if we're just talking about speed, then I'd say that's not as relevant for an awful lot of people unless they're shooting professionally or under huge kind of pressure that they need to be quick.
However, like weddings or something like that.
However, the sensor for me is that's the game-changing thing. That it's it's night and day really between that old sensor and the new sensor. So for me, I couldn't shoot really on the older one.
And you were actually talking about selling your X100T.
My X100T
which you loved.
Is my 23mm. So I bought that instead of a 23mm, and I love it. It's probably my favourite camera of all time.
Yeah.
And it was a toss-up. I can either buy a 23mm and maybe a backup body, or I could just buy this camera, which is a 23mm with a free camera bolted to the back of it. And until we moved away from the older 16 megapixel sensor, it's a great camera. It's for me, it's the perfect 23mm or backup body if you're going travelling. However, now I'm looking at this thinking, right, I might actually have to sell this, because really I want that sensor. I want the X Pro 2 sensor. When you look at those images on the computer in Lightroom, they're just amazing. So it's just like, in the interim, whilst they're working out the logistics of improving the sensor and bringing out the X200 or whatever it's going to be called, I think I might have to sell my X100 to fund a 23mm, simply because I want that focal length. And I would be kind of annoyed if I was putting down my X Pro 2 and then picking up
the 16 megapixels
to do a proper shot that I wanted to use, and a portfolio shot or an exhibition shot. I would be kind of, I don't know, I think that's going to smart a little bit too much. So it's like, I'm going to have to basically go and buy a 23mm, because I do like that.
And then also he's going to have to buy an X200 or whatever it is when it comes out as well, probably.
Then what would happen? Once that's come out, I'd probably sell that 23mm and go back to this setup, because I love it. X Pro 2 with the X100 variant as a little backup. I think that's for me.
Perfect combo.
Perfect walk around backup camera combo for me. I love it.
Right, okay, so we're going to do a little bit of a test here. We're going to see exactly which is the faster camera from going from a cold start to switched on and screen on and telemetry on. The reason why this is important, I think, is because for street photography, you don't want the camera on all the time necessarily, but you do want to have your hand on the on button there and just ready to flip it on and take a picture really quickly to get that Henri Cartier-Bresson decisive moment malarkey going on. So let's see exactly which one of these is faster. It's a race to the death. Right, so let's get these in the screen. I've got mine off. Okay, can we see both the cameras in there? I think so, just about. Right, okay, so 3, 2, 1, bang. There we go. And it does appear that the X Pro 2 does have a slight edge over the X100T. And the X100T, which has only been out, what, a year, 14 months, 18 months, around there. It's the latest generation of that X100 series cameras. But you can see that new processor has made a difference in that sort of start-up time, which is all important for street photography and, you know, weddings and all sorts of other things. It is quicker. It might just be the difference between getting, you know, one shot in 100 or one shot in 1,000 and not. So if that's important to you, the X Pro 2 is definitely a camera to consider. So we've come in here basically to avoid the rain first and foremost, and because we were uncaffeinated, which is the worst thing you can be if you're trying to test cameras. But I just wanted to kind of give a few thoughts about my first impressions with the camera and talk a little bit more to Phil about his experiences having had it for a little bit of a long time. For me, I think that the improvement is dramatic. I still maintain what I said in the original video, which is that I'm waiting for the X-T2. And the only reasons for that, and I know this is something that you'll disagree like wholeheartedly on, which is excellent because I like a bit of controversy on these videos. But for me, I love, on my X-T1, I love the flippy screen thing. And also, for the YouTube channel, I want the option to be able to do the 4K video. And I think we will get that with the X-T2.
Well, I suspect you might get that as a little
extra cherry on the
bonus
cake.
present as a firmware update at some point for the X Pro 2, but who knows?
It's possible. It is possible. I mean, this is the thing. Never say never to these things. It all depends because the sensor we know from Fuji is fully capable of being able to capture 4K video. We know that. What we don't know, and it hasn't been confirmed from Fuji, is whether or not it's able to dissipate the heat that it built up, or whether it's going to have the same issues that the Sony has.
Yeah, and if the processor's up to it, and certainly
I think the processor will, because I suspect the processor will be the same in the X-T2.
Probably.
And I can't see the X-T2 coming out without 4K.
I don't know. I mean, it's kind of a different. 4K's been around for ages and ages, hasn't it? With the old GH4, and it's is the X-T2 going to be a GH4 killer? It's like I don't really know if it's aimed at that market. People moan about I want a tilty screen, I want 4K. So what do you want 4K for? Have you got 4K telly? Well, have you got 4K monitor? The
reason I want 4K in the camera is two reasons. One, because it future-proofs the content that I do. Because at the moment I don't have a 4K.
If you're shooting stock,
but I want it to be there for the future. And also, these days, people don't want to carry around a separate video camera and stills camera. And one of the nice things about having the X series cameras is that they're very small, they're very light, they're very compact, and they've got a little red button that says record movie on it. And I want, when I do that, to have good quality.
They should just take that off.
I mean, at the moment they really should, because
take that off.
Everything up to, and we didn't test the movie of the X Pro 2 today.
We can do. We could do that another day as a comparison.
As a comparison video
like
between.
I said, I have actually used my X100T to shoot a couple of bits of B-roll for an actual proper commercial video shoot.
Yeah,
which I could put a link somewhere.
No, if you can throw that in the description.
And it's shockingly bad, but it totally works for what I needed it, because I couldn't carry another video camera.
Yeah, so. And this is the thing. There are certain times when you can't carry a big camera to where you want to take videos, and these compact cameras are very useful for that. This is, this is the first video on this channel to actually film with the new camera for the channel, which is the G7X, the Canon.
Which we both love.
Which we both love. We've both got one of those.
Annoyingly love it. Yeah,
it's annoyingly good for point and shoot.
I would recommend it.
It's very, very good.
This sort of stuff, it's great.
And it's way better and easier to use for video than my X-T1 or my X Pro 1 or anything like that.
I would say, forget trying to do video on Fuji. It's not really designed for that.
Yeah.
So.
For now, but I'd like it to be. I want everything to be the same. I want to have one set which is Fuji, so that I've got the same lenses across everything and the same looks across everything, and I'd be able to do classic chrome film simulation in the YouTube videos, just like I do with my
It's kind of like having a Swiss Army knife and then moaning it hasn't got a hammer, and then getting them to build one that's also got a hammer on. It's just like, it's not really Just go and buy a hammer and buy a Swiss Army knife or a
It is
Leatherman.
true that if you want to do professional video, you should get a professional video camera. Or go and buy an FS700 or something like that.
Yeah. Or GH4.
Or GH4. But the GH4 does a really good job with stills as well as video. You know, it does a really good job with both, and I'd like to see Fuji step up the mark there. I think that is the way that the market's going.
I guess it's not really their background video.
No, it's not their specialty.
Lenses, yes, but chips and
colour,
codecs and stuff.
Yeah, it is a very different thing, and maybe we need to see them teaming up with somebody else that's able to offer that.
That would work. They'd have to team up with somebody.
Yeah.
Who's left though? Who knows?
Who knows? This is it.
It ain't going to be Sony. Or
no, it's not going to
Panasonic.
be Sony. No, they've already got their eggs in one basket. So it's interesting to see. So I mean, that's for me. You know, I
JVC.
JVC maybe. We haven't seen anything from them in the mirrorless market. Who knows? This is wild speculation. Probably won't ever come.
Heard it here first.
You heard it here first. If it comes to bear, then like you know.
I'm just not that bothered about video.
No.
I've got gear.
But you're covered for that because you're a cameraman.
I've got gear that I use for that. Like I said, I have in an emergency situation. I have used it, and it cut in. It took a bit of grading because it just looked insane.
Yeah.
But you know, it worked. So, and I have used it. But yeah, it's not. That isn't why I'm buying into this system at all.
No, I wouldn't recommend anybody did buy into Fuji because of the video quality that it produces.
No,
it's not a good idea.
It's kind of there as an afterthought.
Yeah.
And it kind of looks like it's an afterthought.
And it does. Yeah. But the other things in there that are, for me, something that I really like. The tilty screen I use at weddings all the time.
I'm not bothered. Like I said earlier, you know, there's been times where I just
tape the
electrical tape over my screen so it doesn't get scratched,
right.
And never use it because I can see the little preview in, you know, for a second and a half or half a second in my viewfinder, so I can just sneakily check. Makes me look a bit more confident instead of chimping
on the back of the camera.
Even though I'm just doing it in the viewfinder, just no one knows about it. So I was kind of not that bothered. It's the screen, which you probably haven't been able to see because of the daylight, but the screen on the X Pro 2 is way better than the older screens. So for focus checking and stuff, it is actually quite useful and valid. But for composition, I guess I haven't done a lot of stuff where I had to lie in the ground. If I've spent a day lying in mud, then I might just be saying, why haven't I got a tilted screen? But saying that, I mean, there's been an awful lot of people saying, I'd rather do that. And if you've got the time, you could just do it on your phone or your iPad on Wi-Fi.
You have got the option to do it via the app, which is really good. It's one of my favourite apps out there. It's certainly, I think it's a lot better than the one that the Canon cameras have with the G7X, for example, which is, you know, way stripped down in features. So if you've got time, that's it. But I'm talking specifically about things like wedding photography, where you might want to duck down very quickly and get, you know, the confetti going over the bride, or do a high shot over the dance floor and know that you've got your composition right. You may only get one chance to get that shot, and having the ability to change the tilty screen thingy and just stick it where you want it is brilliant, and I do like that a lot.
Yes, I'm not so bothered about that because I don't use it in those sort of situations where it's all kickball scramble and someone's paying me money.
Right.
I think I probably miss it, but then I'll just have a second body like an X-T1.
Exactly, and I think a lot of people will probably go down that route. Maybe that, you know, you have the X-T1 or X-T2 when it comes out, which has got the tilty screen stuff, and then the X Pro 1 for doing stuff where that's not important. Because one of the things that I did actually enjoy a hell of a lot, and it's, I think, so far my favourite of the Fuji X cameras, was doing this street photography out there. I was never worried about it missing focus. I was never worried about missing a shot. I was never worried about the speed of the camera. It was always there, and it was incredibly sure-footed. And that is something which I always wanted my X Pro 1 to be, and it never was.
I was waiting 2 years for them to release that
2
camera.
years,
the second they released it, that was it. I put the X-T1 on eBay, and then Fuji, I bumped into a guy, he persuaded me to pre-order. So now I've got my free strap.
Happy days,
so
there we go.
We're going on eBay soon. But yeah, it's the camera I've been waiting for, I think. And I kind of forgive the tilty screen. I'm sure there's going to be a number of shots that you will miss or you just can't be bothered to take. But that doesn't really.
It's not going to bother probably 99.9% of people that are going to buy this camera.
It is weird they left it off.
It is a bit strange.
They've made a conscious effort to not put it on.
Yes, that's true. However, I think that's because they are going to put it on the They're going to put it on the X-T2 because it's on the X-T1.
Maybe.
And so I think they are diversifying slightly what those cameras are meant for. And
True.
so, you know, at the moment I shoot with an X-T1 and an X Pro 1. And I can see in the future, rather than doing maybe 2 X-T2s, having an X-T2 and an X Pro 2.
Yeah.
You know, because they are different in the way that they shoot, and there are some times when one is a more useful format than the other. And I think it's not a bad thing to have two different types of cameras.
We're at the beginning, they're transitioning the whole range with the new technology in the sensor.
Yeah.
We're at the very beginning of that, and that's
that
why that
new
seems
24
weird that
megapixel.
they've kind of deliberately left it off.
Yeah, you're right.
But once the whole range has blossomed, it might be quite obvious and just go, yeah, but that's not meant for that. It's more of a street thing. It's meant to be, you know, primes, walking, travel.
Exactly.
So, and if you want to get low and you're doing travel stuff on the street, like I said, you could just use the app and then set up your scene and wait for people to enter it.
Yeah.
So you've got time. You're not kind of under someone's...
You're not under the cosh, you're not under the pressure of getting the shot for money and all this kind of stuff. But that being said, the X Pro 2, I think that I'd be able to use that so easily to do pretty much any sort of commercial work which was fast paced.
Oh, sure.
You know, I'd be super confident using it at weddings and events and things like that. You know, it's so
That's
much
the next
better.
thing. Maybe you'd have to try that.
Yeah. I think at some point I will have to get one and take it to a wedding and really put it through its paces.
Sure.
Because I've shot weddings with the X Pro 1.
Well,
You know,
if you can do that, then...
Yeah, I mean, you have to think a little bit more about the shots and be a bit aware about where the light is, because, you know, in backlight and things like that and low light, it does hunt a little bit, especially with some of the older lenses, but it can be done. So I know that it's going to be phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, I'm thinking about doing a proper fast-paced commercial shoot, possibly an air-to-air from an aircraft.
Yeah.
Just wondering whether to just be brave and just only take Fuji.
That'd be cool, man.
Shoot. I'm not sure. I don't know about that, but maybe.
If you do that, will you come back on the show and tell us about your experiences?
Yes, yeah, definitely that.
Great stuff. Well, listen, Phil, I really appreciate you coming and lending me this camera. I've been after a go on one of these since it came out, and this will put a lot of the internet shouters to bed now, because I have tried it, so you can't shout at me for that anymore. And if you enjoyed this content, as always, please subscribe using that great big red button that says subscribe on it. It's floating on the screen now, just there. Just press that. You haven't pressed it yet, go and press it. There you go. Right. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon. Cheers.